can. So let's say I'm going to make a new layer. I got all sorts of windows open. Let me just tone this down a bit first. Okay. That's getting a little complicated. So let's say that I want to make that little shine right there. Let me just focus on one little section. So one of the things that I can do is I can use what's called a scatter brush, and that's going to make it a lot easier for me than having to draw these one at a time. So I'm going to create a new layer just on top of everything else. And I'm going to use, gosh, for this one I don't really know exactly, but I'm going to start with a pencil. Let me squish it, and let's go this direction. Let's see what that looks like when I lay that out. Okay, something like that. And let's go a little bigger. Let me pull my flow up a bit. And it's not exactly what I'm looking for, but I'm going to, for the sake of this, so you don't have to sit here forever, I'm going to just say, let's go with it. And I'm trying to get that shine right there. And I'm going to go a little bit brighter. I want to make sure that you guys can really see this. So we end up with something like that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do with this brush, I'm going to go to my brush settings here. And again, that's under Window, Brush Settings. And I'm going to go into what's called Scattering. When I turn Scattering on, the brush will do this. And I can change it to be both axes, so it'll happen both left and right, kind of exploding like that. Now I'm going to get my size up a little bit. I'm going to bring the spacing so it's a lot closer together. I can change with the scattering settings how much of it is going to scatter. The jitter of the count, which means is it going to clump together. I can go into my shape dynamics and I can adjust the angle. I don't want to though. I want to keep this one pretty much the same angle, but I can give it a little bit of a jitter. You can see the more I go this way, the more it'll rotate all over the place. But I'm just going to give it a teeny bit of a jitter. I can adjust the roundness so it kind of does all these weird things on the edges. And I can adjust how big or small the average one is going to be and how much the size is going to change. So let's say I go like with this. Now when I paint, you can see that those settings aren't quite right. So you just need to kind of come in here, and it might take you 5 or 10 minutes to get the exact right settings. I'm not going to make it perfect right now, but it's going to save you some time, and it's going to give you this nice texture that you probably would not have gotten otherwise. So if I want to pull the spacing a little bit closer, make it scatter a little bit less, let's see what that ends up doing. Not bad. And I can do the same thing with these other textures. I can come in here. Let me do it on a lower layer. Let's get this darker area. So rather than having to sit there and try to draw these individually one at a time, you can use a texture brush and get a really cool effect that way. And it's going to save you a lot of time. You might have to come in and clean it up with an eraser afterwards, and that's okay. But let me just get this little highlight on the edge here. Yeah, and then I'd probably just come in and just clean that up with an eraser. But you can see that it's not bad. And then if you wanted to, you could come in and like use the blur brush to kind of mix that up, or you could smudge it together with the finger, push it the direction that you want it to go, etc. I do expect you guys to use texture brushes. For most of your projects, it's going to be a must. There's very few cases. For example, if you had like a dolphin and it's as smooth as can be, that skin, you probably can get away with not using a texture brush. But the other situation is, what do you do about hair? So I'm going to close this one for now. Oh, actually, before I do that, I just want to show you, this could also be used for this background. You can see here, that background would be a perfect candidate for a scatter brush. So if it looks like it's kind of going this way. Probably want to change the settings, maybe make the roundness, the angle jitter a little bit more. And I could just come in and do that all over. And then you see there's like all these little variations. Come in and do a little bit of that on top of it. And maybe a little bit of that bluish color. So I would not want to sit there and draw each of those, right? That would be ridiculous. But by doing a texture brush, you can come in and clean it up that way. Same thing with this shadow right here. There's a shadow there. Use a texture brush to create it so it doesn't look like it's just totally straight. As far as hair is difficult. Here's what I'm going to recommend. Where is my hair? It's hiding somewhere. I don't know where it is. Okay, let me reopen it. Sloth. There it is. It was hiding. And sloth, sloth, sloth. Where's the other one? There it is. Okay. So, hair, you probably are going to have to grab some old brushes for this. The first way to do it is pretty simple. You just get a regular, I don't know, hard round brush or maybe pressure one. Get the size down to a very, very low number, like 3. And you literally paint in each hair. Now, that would work for like my dog that I did, but it wouldn't work for this because they're just too fine. You could literally sit there and draw the hairs like that manually. But if yours has a ton of hair like this, that's not really practical. If you go into your brushes, normally by default you'll have these 4 sets. You're going to need to pull up what's called the legacy brushes. And you do that by going up into this gear right here. And you can click on legacy brushes on the bottom. And again, I'm recording this, so if you forget, it'll tell you. Under default brushes, go down until you get to about here, and you'll see brushes that look like this. And voila. You can use those to paint your hair. You can adjust the angle. Usually you start with the dark one, and then you put the lighter ones on top. And you'll have to adjust the flow and the pressure and the size to get exactly what you're looking for. But that's essentially how you're going to be able to get these hairy effects like that with not a huge amount of work. You can see in just a couple minutes. You know, it's not great, but with a little bit of fine-tuning, you should be able to get the effect that you're going for. So that's pretty much it. Again, I will record this, and if you need to look at it on YouTube, it'll be on Classroom. Let's get to work. And feathers are a whole different thing. If you have feathers, you'll have to come talk to me, or we've already talked to a few of you.